Hello, and welcome back to The Drop, a podcast exploring the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown, and all of the liminal spaces in between. My name is Claire. I'm an Akashic Records reader, shadow worker, and person on this planet, learning and moving and growing and expanding. And today we are continuing this series about the demiurgic energies that I see wreaking havoc in our world, in our systems, in our practices, and in ourselves. And that is specifically what we're going to be talking about today. It's easy, to talk about the demiurge out there, right? In the systems, in the religions and governments and the galactic structures and myths and everything. It's difficult, though, when we have to turn that lens on ourselves, when we have to recognize and see those patterns and coding within us, right? But the pattern lives in us, not because we're evil, but because, our minds, our bodies were shaped inside of the system. Our souls know something other than this. And so many people are waking up to the fact that there is something more than this, that maybe what we have been given maybe isn't the truth, maybe isn't in our best interest, and that there's something more. Not only that there's something more, but that we are more. So let's take a deep breath and drop in. First, we're going to look at this demiurgic system within the physical body. And as I have spoken so many times before, it is so important to be in our bodies and the systems in which we live in, around, under, next to. They do everything they can to keep us distracted, to keep us out of our bodies, hovering just above or just away, because when we're not in our bodies, we're not fully aware. We aren't able to heal deeply in a lasting, effective way. We're not really making decisions from a space of agency. We're just sort of going with whatever it is. And this is deeply, deeply problematic. Like, we check out, we distract ourselves with social media, with the Netflix, with, maybe it's partying or drinking or drugs or literally just anything. It could even be reading. Distraction doesn't come just in the form of negative habits or like unhealthy habits. It comes in tiny, tiny little ways. And when we are distracted, when we're kept out of our bodies, it keeps us from our power, and so this pattern serves to disconnect from sensation and instinct. And when you take a moment to just look, like how often do you override hunger or ignore exhaustion and fatigue, um, and just push through to be productive, right? Like so many of us are products of a capitalist system. Um, like, how often do you treat your body as a tool rather than your home? Extraction consciousness doesn't only operate in corporations. Like, this is all built from this system that we've been talking about for weeks now. Like, extraction consciousness operates when you treat your body like a machine. And this Anunnaki energy or archetype that I brought up last week or the week before, this like engineered labor shows up inside of you, like as this inner voice of like, keep going, keep pushing, like you're behind, you're not doing enough. And the body becomes a resource to exploit. Reclamation begins with rest, with listening, and with remembering that your body is not a servant. But not only that, it isn't just about resting, it isn't always easy. Reclaiming your body. And I'm going to share a personal story of something that I went through recently that I don't know, I kind of had to like step back from this like recording this series because I was just like, oh my God. It's not easy. Um so yeah, here we go. So I've explained in episodes long ago, probably really early on, how several years ago I spent months just focusing on my root, on grounding into my body. I was listening to like root specific frequencies all day, every day. I didn't really understand why. But, you know, after the fact, like I had this moment sitting on my paddleboard on the lake, where I was like, holy shit, like I am fully in my body right now. Like, I don't know the last time that I experienced this because I had just gotten really good at just not just leaving my body, but just hovering a few feet above it, like, and just watching myself live, essentially. It was really unhealthy. It was due to, you know, a lot of different like traumas and wounding patterns and this and that. Excuse me. But yeah, like this moment after months of like, okay, like gotta get back in the body. Um, it was like a completely psychedelic experience of like having my energy in my body. Completely bizarre. And when I say that, it's like, well, it shouldn't be bizarre. Like we have a body, like we're in our bodies every day. Yeah, but like, how much are you in your body right now? Actually, like, pause this, sit for a second, ask to be shown, like, are you one half, one fourth, one third, three fourths, all the way? You know, I in when I was working full time in my massage practice, I've worked with thousands, literally thousands of people. And the majority of people that I worked with um, were 40 to 50% in their body. So it is a crazy thing to actually be in our bodies because, again, we live in a system that does not want us in our bodies. Anyway, I'm looping a little bit. I had that experience several years ago. And between then and now, I've been very, very conscious of, okay, I'm in a situation where in the past I would have just separated my from my body and floated above, floated away. Um, and so making this really conscious decision and effort to remain grounded in my body, in myself, to the earth, and move through whatever it was that I was going through. Fast forward, or not fast forward, but on the last day of February, I attended a women's circle here in Denver. I was immediately pulled to it. I didn't know why. That's not typically my thing. Um, I'm trying to be less of a lone wolf. Um, yeah, so I was immediately pulled to this, like bought a ticket, showed up, didn't really know what was gonna like happen. I knew, a few things like we were going to be doing breath work and cacao, and there was going to be a hape ceremony, um, and, some movement. So, yeah, I just showed up kind of with that in mind. Um, it was a lot more than that. It was so much more than that. And if you remember, if you've been following along with this series, I sort of began this series with a story about my own descent into the Demiurge, which occurred in early this year, early January. Another unexpected scenario where I went in and I got like several different people out. I didn't really understand what was happening. And then I finally like arrived to a space within the Demiurge and I was there. I'm not going to go into detail with that. It was a lot, but I'm so sorry. I don't know if I have allergies or something. Um, yeah, it was a lot, but I pulled I pulled that part of my soul that was trapped within that space out and reintegrated it, cleared it, reintegrated it, everything. And so, I show up to this women's circle and the first thing, we open up with cacao. It's very sweet and warming and, just soft and settling. Then we drop in to some breath work. Breath work, weirdly, has always stressed me out. I think it's, again, just my rejection of being in a body. Like, I don't know. I remember as a kid, when I was 6, I just I went through like months of like freaking out that I wasn't going to be able to breathe, that like my body would forget. And so I would just like stop breathing and then like, yeah, it was really, really odd. There's a lot there to that I don't know if today's the day to get into that story. But we started with breath work and, you know, year of the fire horse, like the eclipses, the full moon, like all of that was going on. So that was like a bit of a focus um, as we dropped into this. And I immediately felt this just excruciating surge of pain through my body. And I I have lived with chronic pain since I was 6 years old. Um, at 6, I had my first migraine. Um, I lost my vision, and it was very scary time. I then pretty much lived every day with like, between 1 and 10 around a 6 or 7 level headache that would then turn into a debilitating migraine, where I could not see. I would lose my motor function. I was in severe pain and just couldn't do anything. That lasted until I was about 27 years old. Um, Between that time, around 2020, yeah, I was in 2 pretty bad car accidents within the span of 5 days, that really, really messed up my neck and my shoulders. A few years later, I had another set of 2 injuries where I partially dislocated my shoulder and then I messed up my neck again and I lost my vision and ability to move my neck or my head for a little bit. Um, and now I have really bad neck problems. It's like to the point that my neck curves in reverse. I think I spoke to this somewhere at some point, but anyway. So I live in pain a lot. I have some, yeah, lots of pain, lots of pain. Anyway, we don't have to make this longer than it needs to be. I drop into this breath work. I'm immediately feeling excruciating pain. I start crying, and one of my guides comes to me and just takes me up into the cosmos, up into this just black void. And I'm kind of suspended in this void. And I'm in so much pain. I am like still like in this breathwork process. I am sobbing. It feels like my body is on fire. And I just hear this voice of like, I know you hold so much pain. I know that you believe you need to swallow all the pain of the world. But isn't that isn't your purpose. And I was just crying. And then this voice started speaking again, and they said, "You have to feel your pain. Your body is not just a holder, a receptacle of pain. You have to be in your body, but to be in your body, like pain is the way through. And I am bigger than any of your pain. You are not going to break. The world is not going to break if you feel your pain because I am holding you." And I just kept sobbing. Um, I, like I have said, did not expect that to happen. I did not expect to suddenly be held by, like, the great mother, source, spirit, um, in that way. And so the rest of this circle was spent. I was just like totally shook of like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, I came back into my body on one level, but I have been rejecting it in so many other ways. Um, and so, like, after the breath work, we dropped into this rage circle. And I just kind of like collapsed on my knees and I was just crying and shaking. And like the facilitator was like kind of looking at me. And I looked at her and I was just like, I don't know how to scream. Like, we were all supposed to scream to like let it all out. And I was like searching in my body, like for my vocal cords. And anytime I tried to scream, it just came out like this rasp or like this just vacuum of silence. And like I heard that voice again of like, pain is the way through. Like you have to feel your pain, it has to be felt and let go so that you can get back fully into your body. Because you've believed for so long that you were in your body after doing all of this work, but like this is the final barrier. And then I started screaming. Um, and then we moved into the hot bay. And like, the first dose came around and it again was just this excruciating pain of everything just being burned away. And as I was just like burning from the inside out, it was like I could feel my soul, my energy across all time, space, dimension, and planes of existence just coming back into my body, like as just all of this shit, all of this programming, all of this coding, all of this fear. Really, it was a lot of fear. Was being burned away. This fear of being in a body, this fear of being like fully in my power. And then it like started to ease. And one of the facilitators like came and sat in front of me and she was just like, look, like I get messages sometimes. but like Mary Magdalene is with you. Like Mary Magdalene is with you. And I was just like, yeah, I know. And I pointed to my forearm, like I have Mary Magdalene tattooed on my arm. And like she was just like, what? Like, but then she was like, no, no, like, yeah, she's there with you on your arm, but like, no, she is here right now, like with you. She's bathing you in roses, in this soft pink and red light. And like, you just have to let her in. Like, you have to allow that gentleness and that love into your body. Like, you've been rejecting it for so long. And yeah, I'm like, sorry, I'm like getting emotional talking about it. Um, Still, um, so the days after that, I was just like incredibly weepy. I'm still weepy. Um, because I've just been looking at and feeling and sensing my body in so many different ways than I ever have before. And especially it's just so silly of like, oh yeah, I've done the work. Like I'm back in my body. I'm embodied, like da 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 da. And it's like, chill, girl. No, you weren't. You were like avoiding just this massive, massive piece because like you were too scared to feel it. And it's understandable, like it's understandable because our bodies do hold so much pain and so much trauma and so much wounding. And so no wonder we escape them all the time. We don't want to look at it, right? And I believe that that's on purpose because now that I walked through that fire, I am just seeing and sensing and feeling and understanding myself, but also the world and everything around me in such a different, deeper, truer way. So I say all of that. I realize that was a long story. I do apologize. I say all of that because I just want to implore you basically to start the process of coming back home to your body. A lot of people in this space focus just on the energetic parts or just on the fun parts. There's like a lot of, yeah, don't avoid walking through that fire. To quote just a horrible man that I still just love, my favorite poet, Charles Bukowski. What matters most is how well you walk through the fire. And you can do it. If you need support, I'm here to support you. um, I don't, nothing that I do, nothing that I offer, I don't offer it unless I've walked it first. Um, and if I can walk it, you can walk it. So check in with yourself. How much are you in your body? Because I thought I was in my body and I was not. So that's that. Moving on. The Demiurgic system wants us out of our body, wants us out of our power and our agency. And getting back grounded into your body is really the first most important place to start because that is where you can start bringing down all of these light codes, these healing energies, everything into your earth, into your body, anchoring it into the earth, and really start just fucking changing things. We have to look at emotional control as well. Archonic energy really thrives on emotional distortion, from what I've seen and experienced, like two two common, or like, yeah, common tendencies I see of like this archonic distortion being like suppression disguised as transcendence, and reactivity disguised as righteousness. So, suppression, saying, I'm above anger, I'm high frequency, our reactivity being like, I'm right, they're wrong, or just reactivity in general. When you look at yourself, like, are you reacting to things or are you responding to things? Or are you dissociating from things in the name of being high vibe or ascended or enlightened? Um, because in a way, this just feeds hierarchy, um, integration of all of it, all of life allows anger without cruelty, or grief without collapse, or power without domination. We live in such a polarized world, and we don't have many examples of anger without cruelty or power without domination. And I see in so many circles, various circles, whether spiritual, religious, political, whatever it is, power equals domination. Like any nuance, any integration is lost. You can be angry. You should be angry about a lot of things. And that anger, when you suppress it, it just lives within you and it turns into this toxin. It eats you away from the inside and it comes out probably at things that like don't deserve that anger, Um, there are ways to express anger without harming others. There's a way to feel grief without completely being consumed by it or collapsed by it. And there's a way to stand in your power without dominating everyone else around you or without forming this superiority complex. It takes time to understand this. And like this to me is really what exiting the matrix is. It's seeing the nuance in all of this. It's depolarizing. It's holding a feeling or an emotion without becoming it, without it driving all of who you are. Um, this energy shows up not just in our emotions, but how you work with other people's emotions. So when you manipulate someone emotionally, even in a small way, that demiurgic pattern is active. When you withhold affection in order to control, when you inflate yourself to feel safe, when you need to be superior, whether spiritually or in other ways. Um, that like narcissistic tendency uh, that I see in a lot of people, that is demiurgic patterning. And this narcissistic stuff, tendency, um, it shows up in relationships, whether romantic, whether between, you and your parents, you and family members, you and your friends, especially in the spiritual spaces within spiritual identity, right? So this demiurgic energy like loves spiritual performance. I'm more aware. I'm so powerful. I've done the shadow work. Like I've done everything I see, what others don't. It thrives on being the most awakened person in the room. Um, Even martyrdom, like I see this so much, this um, marriage of narcissism, narcissism and martyrdom of, I carry so much, I've been through so much. I'm here to save others. Only I can do it because only I can see, to this depth, to this level. Um, that savior identity, which to me, the savior identity is really just narcissism. I don't know why I can't say that, say it correctly today. Uh, the marriage of narcissism and martyrdom. Uh, yeah. So the moment your spirituality separates you from humanity, the pattern has entered. And it's not a fun thing to look at. It's not a fun thing to realize. However, in that realization, the work can begin to untangle, untangle this. Um, yeah, and just a whole other area of us, of our bodies, of our functions oh, is sexual energy. I've not really gotten, I've not spoken to this topic before, and this is probably going to warrant an episode all on its own. But sexual energy is creative force, it's life force. And it unfortunately, I mean, it's one of the most powerful energies. It's also one of the easiest places um, for distortion to thrive. So this demiurgic pattern in sexuality can look, oh gosh, just really, really gross. I mean, using intimacy, for validation or power dynamics or control, right? Um, Confusing intensity with connection. And like when sexual energy becomes transactional, like it becomes extraction instead of communion. And then, we can get into the even deeper parts of it, like I just briefly mentioned, like sex as a form of control. There Mm. We know the heinous things that happen. Again, this will probably be a an episode unto itself one day, but just to, you know, as we're going through all of this of like what to look at in ourselves and how to recognize it in ourselves, yeah, I'll just mention this now, but like that archonic coding or energetic can really attach to this as well, swinging from one end of the spectrum to the other of like, I'm too much, I'm not enough, I need to prove my desirability, or like I can seduce and control. Um, the sexual sovereignty feels grounded and present and mutual and embodied, and there is consent there. It is not conquering or collapsing. Um, and when sexuality reconnects to the body, so to the fully embodied person, without performance, without hierarchy, that is when like the demiurgic energy can't thrive within that system because it creates life, whether you're actually creating life. I think sex creates life, whether, you know, um, a baby comes from that or not, but it creates life without domination. So, again, not comfortable to turn this lens on yourself and look at where this has crept in. This creeps in relationships as well. This energetic parasitism. And a lot of this can be really unconscious, like, do you need constant reassurance? Do you fish for validation? Do you create drama to feel alive? Um, or have you found yourself in the past or currently keeping someone slightly destabilized so that they don't leave? That's parasitic energy. That's in some ways narcissistic energy, really all the same thing. Um, not because you're monstrous, but because unmet wounds seek fuel. And this like inner demiurge, the inner usurper, says stay dependent. Like, don't let them outgrow you. Like, we need a food source. You cannot thrive on your own. But sovereignty says if you grow, I celebrate. When you start to detach this gross, parasitic energy from yourself, there is so much peace found within yourself. Life and other people are less threatening. That fear of being left leaves because that voice of you can't do this on your own, you need to pull from other people and have all this other stuff, it isn't there anymore. That parasite that needs a host isn't there anymore. And so the the demiurgic energy makes us into parasites. Not an easy thing to sit with. And so just start noticing, maybe in romantic relationships or with your friends or with your family. But start looking at these small behaviors. Are you constantly interrupting or like needing the last word or withholding apology or love in order to maintain control, in order to feel like, all right, they have to keep coming back? Um, are you spiritualizing avoidance, right? Like, are you just not looking at something and trying to make it holy? How often do you compete instead of collaborate? It Hierarchy isn't only institutional, it's behavioral, it's inside of us. And this pattern says, like, win and dominate and be above and extract, extract, extract. Because if you stop winning and stop dominating and stop being above and stop extracting, you're going to die, you're going to starve. And that's just not true. It's not true. Wisdom, embodiment, sovereignty says relate. Our bodies hold all of this, all of this. And we see it physically, in our tight jaw and our clenched fist and our shoulders and our backs and our shallow breath. And I told that long, long story for a reason, not not just because of like, you know, pain and the body and needing to be in the body, but also to sort of map out when this demiurgic, archonic, Anunnaki, all the energies, all the systems, all the coding, all of this distortion really landed in my body in this incarnation. 6 years old, like it anchored, you know. That's not to say I didn't carry this energy before, but there were physical, real, tangible identifiers of, okay, distortion is here. And I'm 31 now. I'm 31 now. This has been a really, really, really slow process for me. Other people move through it way more quickly. I move slow, but it starts with coming back to yourself. I had a moment in my early 20s where things really started shifting. I really started, things started changing. I started returning more to myself. My body didn't feel so far away. My pain levels were decreasing. I wasn't having migraines as often. I was sitting with spirit every day in meditation, in walks through the forest. And, my soul was returning and coming back online, basically. And then I took a turn. I ended up in a situation for several years that, yeah, was not aligned. It was not good. It did a lot of damage, and I had to make my way back from that. Um, and that process has been, since 26, 27. Um, it's not been easy, but it's an act of choosing yourself every day that helps to remove these energetics from our systems, from our bodies, um, and it's possible. And when you look at it, like how I just said, like kind of mapping out in this life, when this energetic coding really anchored into my system. If the world has been influenced by a false hierarchy, right? This Demiurgic system, then incarnation itself is an initiation. Your nervous system is rewiring a generational imprint, right? So that's what I mean of like this system really physically anchored into me around the age of 6. However, like we come into this life with this generational imprint. Um, our sexuality is reclaiming creative force. Our emotions are detoxing suppression, and our bodies are learning that they aren't property. Like this battle, if you will, isn't like Star Wars. It's not like lightsabers and cosmic lasers. It's deep, deep, deep pattern interruption. Before the interruption, though, is like pattern recognition. We have to see it. We have to bring it into the light of awareness in order to interrupt it. And those interruptions can start in really small, quiet ways. Like power and reclamation and sovereignty doesn't have to be some large, sweeping ecclesiastical thing. Like it can be resting instead of overproducing, it can be telling the truth instead of manipulating. It can be staying present instead of dissociating, which that is not a small thing. um, Releasing superiority in all of these different little ways, just these beginning little jumping off points. You begin to collapse the inner throne of the usurper, because it doesn't only rule through tyrants and systems, it rules through wounded people trying to feel safe. It acts in the same way as, to me, the church and the United States military acts. It sees someone that is wounded and scared and needs support and safety, and it puts on that mask as support and safety. And then it has you in its claws and it starts siphoning away from you, you know? So, whether it's a religion, a church, a political party, a relationship, a spiritual circle, notice, are all of these things that I've mentioned, like, are they occurring there? And how are they occurring in you? Integration isn't exile, it's awareness. You don't kill the inner usurper. You don't kill this demiurgic energy inside of you. You dethrone it, you clear it, you move it out of your system, and you refuse to let fear and this thing sit on the throne. You don't consent to being driven by this anymore. So, all of this, I know a lot of it sounds crazy and out there, but spiritual adulthood, sovereignty, integration, embodiment is not some galactic battle taking place in the sky. It's noticing when you exploit yourself or others, when you perform enlightenment or escape your body or weaponize love or abdicate responsibility, and you start to choose differently. Not perfectly. It's not about being perfect. It's about being conscious. Um, People talk about we are in World War III right now, or, with everything going on. Um, we have been. It's like the revolution is cellular. This war is spiritual. It's energetic. It's about consciousness. Um, but the revolution begins when you can admit, when you can see that like this energetic lives within you as well. And then you can start extracting it from yourself. You can remove it because it's not supposed to be there. It is an invasive species, if you will. So next week, I will be talking a bit more of just kind of unplugging from all of this, coming home to yourself, integrating this series that we have journeyed through. Um, in the meantime, if you're ready to begin this journey to sovereignty, this process of getting all of this shit out of your system, Shadow Maven is the place to begin. This is the space where you can take your time, you can go through the meditations and healings over and over and over again. You can be held in group support, and I'm there to answer questions. And if you want to dive in deeper, if you want to work one-on-one, then the threshold mentorship is really it. Like yeah, I can't explain the changes that I'm seeing in my clients. Like, they are becoming free. And it's not that they're becoming a new person. They are returning to their soul and the person that they have always been, free of all of this heaviness and density and distortion. And yeah, it is an honor to walk beside each and every person that I have walked beside, that I am walking beside, and it would be an honor to walk next to you as well. So please reach out. hello@asterholistic.com is my email. Aster Holistic on Instagram, or you can just go to my website and book in with where you feel called, or we can hop on a connect call to really, get into it and see what would be most supportive for you. So asterholistic.com. This was a long one. That's all for now. I hope you have a beautiful day or night wherever you are on this beautiful, loving, supportive planet. Sending you so much love. Until next time. Bye for now.